Hey everyone, it's Austin from Park Buff. Today we're having a special episode here on the Park Buff YouTube channel at the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute in Birmingham, Alabama. We're going to speak with Charles Woods about the Birmingham campaign during the Civil Rights Movement, the progress that's been made since the 1960s, and the work that still lies ahead.
Yeah, so the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute was founded in 1992, and it was originally the brainchild of one of our former mayors. And really what it serves as is a living memorial to the Birmingham Civil Rights Movement and to the foot soldiers of the Civil Rights Movement. Our mission is to enlighten each generation about civil and human rights by exploring our common past and working together to create a better future. And so what I like to tell people is that we're really that place where those difficult conversations occur, so we can dial all of this stuff forward, right? I really believe that our nation is established based off of really good ideas. We just haven't realized them yet. And so we like to be that place that helps people come together from all walks of life, all different viewpoints, and have those type of discussions through our programming to kind of help make things better. Really good question. Birmingham was really a focal point for change because it was the most violent place during the Civil Rights Movement. One of our nicknames is Birmingham, and that's because we had many unsolved bombings here in the city of Birmingham, all based off of this movement. This was also the place where Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth really employed Martin Luther King Jr. and the SCLC to come here to try to make change here, because if you can make change in Birmingham, then the rest of the places in the nation will be a little easier to manage. And so because of that, Birmingham is that special focal point. But then when the movement came here, the imagery and the brutality that occurred during the movement here in 1963, where young children were sprayed with water hoses and dogs were sicked on them, really changed how people saw what the Civil Rights Movement was about. And so that occurred here in Birmingham, and it really changed the Civil Rights Movement and the world. So we use what I like to call the bridge pedagogy, where you're trying to connect what's going on today or more modern events to past events. And we do a good job with that, especially with imploring our foot soldiers. Foot soldiers are anyone who participated in the movement, especially in 1963 here in Birmingham. And a lot of those people are still alive. And so not only did they live through that that horrible time, they've also seen other things in our history, in our society that has evolved over time. And so by connecting young people with these elders, and then also making the history relevant to today, we're able to kind of make those connections and make people understand that Civil Rights Movement is an ongoing event. It's not something that ended with the death of Martin Luther King Jr. in 1968. And it's something that you have to continue to struggle and fight for, because you never know when things may change. We've made a lot of progress. I can't take anything from the city of Birmingham as a whole. Where we may not have to sit at segregated lunch counters or walk through rear entrances in certain establishments, there are some things that Birmingham has been able to evolve out of its dark history. And so In 1979, we had our first black mayor. We've only had black mayors since. Birmingham's airport is now known as the Birmingham Shuttlesworth Airport, named after our unsung civil rights leader, Mr. Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth. And then you also have things that, businesses are integrated. There are many opportunities here. Birmingham is what I like to call a chocolate city. It's over 73% black, where in the segregation era things weren't like that. And so you see some positive progress, but you still have issues with marginalized communities. We have issues with gentrification. We have educational disparity issues. And so there are some things that we still need to work on here in the city of Birmingham, but we have come a long way. And I think the biggest growth that Birmingham has shown is that it has started to embrace its difficult civil rights history rather than shun it for other things like our steel industry history. Like I said before, the struggle continues, and what people have to understand is that it never went away. It just evolved, and it evolved into new forms. And so we still, like I said, have this educational disparities. You had the school to prison pipeline. You have ways that voters are being suppressed. You have economic disparities. The wealth gap is probably at its largest that it's ever been between whites and blacks, but also other demographics. And so we have a lot of things that we do need to work on. Nationally, we're witnessing attempts to erase or whitewash the history that I'm just talking about now. And so that's become a national issue, trying to keep truth in history and tell the story like it is. I mean, things have been dark. Things have been bad at times. But those things were necessary for us to get to not only where we are, but also for us to ultimately realize what I was saying before, that ultimate American dream. All of the ideas that our forefathers set down that they never lived to see. And so I think Birmingham is a place that can kind of highlight that you can have these dark issues in your past but still have a positive outcome now and hopefully in the future. So, we are part of the Birmingham Civil Rights National Monument. It's one of the last things that President Obama did before he left office. And it includes many sites, but especially right here in the Civil Rights District, it includes the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, 16th Street Baptist Church, Kelly Ingram Park, which is right across the street, and the A.J. Gaston Motel. A.J. Gaston Motel being the linchpin in the Civil Rights National Monument. And so we are individual institutions that work kind of together synergistically. And so we do things like work together in different programming when possible. A.J. Gaston and the Civil Rights Institute in the past have worked strongly together with school groups that come in for field trips. The 16th Street Baptist Church every year, due to the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing, they do programming that we assist with. So we co-promote, we collaborate. We also produce materials together if necessary. We highlight each other in our promotional materials and things of that nature. And we just kind of work together. What we hope to do one day is to have a collaborative narrative where, as we're telling the history, we're highlighting each site so that people get inspired to go to those sites and see the individual histories of their sites. Say, like, for instance, St. Paul United Methodist Church that used to share the parking lot with 16th Street Baptist Church. It's right here in the Civil Rights District. It was a site of early movement meetings and things of that nature. but they don't get a lot of the credit, that they deserve as well. And so we hope to be able to have a collaborative narrative where everyone is highlighting each other and that everyone is going to those respectable sites, including Bethel Baptist Church. I can't leave them out, which is outside of the Civil Rights District, but was Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth Church, and also deserves to be highlighted. It's a really good question as well. We have space where we have traveling exhibitions. So we've seen exhibitions come in from other organizations that we've highlighted here that were resonated very well, not only with youth but with all of our patrons. One of those was called New Evolution. It was Latinos in the New South, and it talked about the rising numbers of not only immigrants but people that are here, the correct way, living, starting businesses, and showing the growing populations throughout the South of the Latino population. That resonated very well. So did Men of Change. Men of Change was a Smithsonian exhibition that highlighted important African American men throughout our history. That was a split exhibition between us and the local public library right here downtown, as it was a really scaffolding and really big exhibition. We couldn't house all of it here, so the fine art stayed here, and then the rest of the exhibition went there. And it was really good exhibition. Resonated with a lot of different people because it was also at the local library. And the local library has a dedicated population, but they also have people that come through there all the time for different events and things. Here at the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, some of our signature programming resonate really with young people. So one of our programs is called the Legacy Youth Leadership Program. It is a program for high school age children who are interested in learning this history, but then also in learning to be storytellers and also give this history. And so they come here for about 13 weeks to get an intense history lesson about American history. And then they become docents for us in our galleries during the summer to get their volunteer hours, as they're able to tour individuals around our galleries and give that same history. And so that's a flagship program. We also have our community of streamers. If you know, that's a long acronym. Includes STEAM, includes art, but we do programs like that for young people where we show how foot soldiers and other individuals kind of are the architects of building this civil rights movement. But we use math, reading, technology, science, and all of those things to be able to do that. And so that's one of our flagship programs as well. And then we have continuing programs where we go out into schools, and we have people come here for different events and programs as well. And so, like I said before, our Fred Shuttlesworth Humanitarian Award is coming up in December 11th. But it's where we highlight individuals who have utilized the same spirit, I guess you can say, of Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth and others, to fight for human rights, civil rights in their reflective communities. Wow, so we have several things. We have a replica of the bus that was firebombed in 1963 in Anniston, Alabama during the Freedom Rides. We have the actual jail bar cells that Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was behind when he wrote the famous letter from a Birmingham jail. We have photos and footage of thousands of children who literally put their lives on the line, marching for freedom and justice, singing freedom songs, which are very unique as well. And so Carlton Reese, which became the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights Choir at first, now we know it as the Carlton Reese Choir, where he kind of remixed a lot of gospel songs into freedom songs. We highlight Carlton Reese and his efforts and how important music was to this movement. Wow, it's just many things that kind of resonate with individuals here within our galleries that are that I consider special exhibits, things that nobody else has, stories that no one else is able to tell. We have remnants of the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing from stained glass windows that were blown out. We have the personal effects of Miss Denise McNair, who was the youngest of the 4 little girls who was killed on that day, and we had the things that she had on, and she was found after that blast. And so, all of those things strike people in a special way. In our Human Rights Gallery, we have a portion of the tank that Bull Connor, who was the Commissioner of Public Safety here in Birmingham, would parade through black neighborhoods to terrorize those individuals. And we have that sitting right next, kind of juxtaposed to an image of a young man in Hong Kong standing in front of a tank when they were protesting in 1989. And so we make the connection between what happened here in Birmingham and the efforts of young people, especially getting involved in the movement, and how that had affected other parts of the world. And so, and then right across from that, we have a big blast of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights on the wall. And so, I think all of those things strike people in different ways. Those are things that I've heard people say, man, wow, Charles, that was, this was great in the most, way that could be possible, because this is also, place where people come out of here and they're sobbing, and they need to, give someone a hug, and they need to let their feelings, flow, because it's a lot of information about how bad people can treat people, right? But it also has a story of resilience and humanity that comes out of it as well. It's a lot of things that can translate into today, especially for young people. When I talk to young people about the lessons of the Civil Rights Movement, it's a lot of things that I can include. But attention spans are short. You're kind of on a grandstand, and you're speaking in front of these people. So you gotta be concise. And so I kind of want to read some of this, but just to get it all out and make sure that people understand. And so the first thing I want them to understand is the power of youth activism. Young people, when they picked up the movement, that's what gave the movement its trajectory. We know about King, and Fred Shuttlesworth was older than King, but Martin Luther King Jr. was considered part of the old guard at a certain point in our movement. And so youth activism, the Children's Crusade here in Birmingham reminds young people have always been the catalyst for change. The importance of coalition building across differences as the movement succeeded through unlikely alliances. We always saw these people, the civil rights leaders, on a united front. They had issues. They got into fights. It was not fist fights, but they got into arguments about how things should have been done. But whenever it was out in the public, it was a consensus. Everyone was on one accord, and they were masters at putting their differences aside to focus on the issue or the idea or the march or the campaign or whatever was at hand. And that's a big thing. That's something that young people need to learn today. And we're not seeing a lot of that today, right? And the discipline of nonviolence as a strategy. To be nonviolent is to go against your human right, but also what's naturally inside of you to protect and defend yourself. It is a learned tactic. It is something people had to be trained on and trained about. That's why it was so very much so connected to the religious movement at that time. It was something that people had to have on the inside of them. There was a lot of people that you didn't see marching, that you didn't see doing sit-ins, that you didn't see, getting sprayed with hoses or whatever was going on that were so in support, but just knew that they weren't that person that could withstand somebody doing certain things to them and allow it to happen. And so nonviolence as a strategy, not as a lifestyle necessarily, right? But as a strategy. And when I say not as a lifestyle, I mean self-defense. Some people can consider that violence, even though I don't. But not necessarily as a lifestyle, but as something to be utilized in this moment to make something else happen. It's something that I think is lost. And the understanding that freedom isn't free. It requires sacrifice, persistence, and courage. And lastly, most importantly, that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. One thing that has happened in at least the time that I've been growing up is that King almost is deified. He's put on such a grand scale and platform that people feel like they can never do what he did. But a lot of these people, including King, but a lot of these other people that were the foot soldiers in this movement, that were boots on the ground, that these things were happening to, that were imploring these ideas that I just talked about, they were just regular folks who wanted to see a better United States, who wanted to see a better world, and were not afraid to put their lives on the line to make that happen. And so this movement in this time of division needs to be understood as a beloved community of people from all walks of life, from every black, white, whatever. They came together to see this lasting change. And that young people need to also understand that and feel kind of urgent that things can change rapidly, and if we're not diligent about understanding this history, and where we all fit in it, it's going to be hard to kind of push our nation forward in a positive way. Well, we envision BCR as a laboratory for social change. We want to see it not just as a museum. We are hoping to expand our digital reach so that we are able to reach individuals globally and be able to tell this story on a much broader scale, and deepening our local community engagement as well. One thing I've learned is that if you haven't sold the people around you, right, it's really hard to sell anyone else. And so we're developing programs that address contemporary justice issues through the lens of civil rights history. Our goal is to become a premier training ground for the next generation of activists, educators, and leaders. And we want every visitor to leave here not just informed, but transformed, and feel like there's an internal charge that they want to move this idea forward. So we want them to be equipped and inspired to be foot soldiers in their own communities. And the ultimate vision is that the lessons of the Birmingham struggle can become tools for liberation wherever injustice exists. The Birmingham Civil Rights Institute stands ready to ensure that the sacrifices of the foot soldiers, many of them that I see every day and talk to them on a regular basis, were not in vain, and that their legacy lives on in every person who walks through our doors and carries forward the unfinished work of correcting injustices that they see in their society.